G'day legends, it's Mark here from North Oz, and after 14 long years, the brand new Prado is finally here. So today we're going to check out the 2024 LandCruiser Prado 250. Let's get stuck into it, it's going to be a good one. For the last 24 hours, I've been bombarded with information about this brand new 2024 Prado 250, and I'm very excited to share this information with you guys, as I have owned a Prado 150. I owned a 2021 flatback model, and here in our family at North Oz, we also have a Prado 150, a 2022 model that is used for towing, and it got a little bit of an upgrade over the 2021. So this video is going to be a bit of a unique perspective and a bit of a look into what this brand new Prado 250 is going to offer, and is it going to be worthwhile upgrading over a Prado 150 from the initial information we've been given. And maybe we might have to cut through a little bit of the hype to see what this brand new Prado is really all about, and is it really the upgrade that we've been waiting for the last 14 years. So the first thing I want to talk about is the chassis and the pricing and how those two are linked. And you're probably thinking, Mark, how are the chassis and the pricing, how are those two things actually linked? Well, the new Prado 250, if you have a good look at it, it looks a lot like a 300 series. And the reason for that is this brand new global chassis that we are starting to see now the second vehicle roll out onto, and I'm sure that the Hilux will be rolling onto that same chassis as well. Now, the problem that I have with this chassis being used in the 300 series and now the 250, and what will be used in possibly the Tacoma, but for us here in Australia, it's our Hilux. What I'm interested in is the price. Because if you have a very similar vehicle in that 300 series, and then you've also got the same chassis and a lot of the same dimensions in the Prado and the Hilux, but there is a $50,000 price difference, which is what it has been in the past, given the Prado had its own chassis separate to the 300 series, I think what we're going to see is a lot shorter gap in that price between the 300 series and the Prado 250. And that concerns me, because the thing that I really love about the Prado is it's always been the little brother to the LandCruiser. And that means that it had cheaper parts, it had a cheaper price, it had a lower spec. The price difference between the lower spec 200 and the lower spec 150 was a lot. It was nearly 30 grand. But I don't think we're going to see that bargain that we can get, even though a lot of people would argue with me that the Prado 150 is a bargain, and I still stand by the fact that the Prado 150 is one of the most capable four-wheel drives out there still to this day compared to the new vehicles that are being released. But I'm very concerned that the Prado may lose its identity because it's going to be sharing the same platform as the 300 series and eventually the Hilux in 2025. Now, that for me is a little bit of a problem because, the LandCruiser boys always like to separate the Prado from the main LandCruiser name, but I think that separation isn't going to be there as much anymore. And I think that pricing is going to have a lot to do with it. And it is a very big disappointment. Moving on now to the engine and transmission, it's a very big disappointment that the engine is very similar specs. In fact, pretty much identical specs to what it is currently in the Prado 150. And if you have a look at the GR Hilux that is coming out, it even has more power than the brand new Prado 250 that isn't even out yet. While the Prado does have hybrid, and it's going to have that instant torque, which I'm sure will help it in an off-road setting, the fact that it actually didn't have more power on paper, I think is going to be a problem, and people are already talking about it. The car reviewers are already saying it's going to be a disappointing engine. However, I don't think it's going to be as disappointing as people think. I did say that I am a little bit disappointed, and I am, but what did we expect, guys? What did we expect? Did we expect to see a twin-turbo V6 in it? No one did. Everyone wanted to. I really wanted to see even just a single turbo V6 in there. At the end of the day, we always knew it was going to be a much smaller engine because they have to try and create somehow some separation between the 300 series LandCruiser and now the 250 Prado. And they're going to do that with things like the engine. Now, for me, it does bother me a little bit, but I don't think it's the end of the world. However, I think it will be a strike against it, especially when people are looking at cars like the Ford Everest, or they're looking at other vehicles that may have higher torque numbers. So that will be a constant point of comparison when they bring this to Australia and all the car reviewers are doing all the comparisons. The number one thing they're going to talk about is the fact that it's going to have the least amount of power, and it's always going to hurt it when it does the comparisons and when they do all the comparison tables and things like that. Now, I am a firm believer that 500 Newton meters of torque is plenty of torque for a four-wheel drive. And if you need any more than that, you're either towing really, really heavy, where we have been towing here. My mum and my dad have been towing a 2.7 ton caravan with their Prado 150 without any issues at all. And it's got plenty more towing capacity than that as well. So I think that 500 Newton meters of torque is going to be plenty. However, there is going to be that initial disappointment for people that were wanting a much better, not so much better, but a much bigger engine. But that hybrid, guys, I'm actually a little bit excited about, because let's face it, it's going to be in the Hilux. That's just how it's going to be. They always were going to be moving in that direction with the Hilux. And I'm actually quite excited about it. I think that they have had plenty of time, plenty of experience with things like the Prius. How dare I say Prius in a four-wheel driving video? But I think they've had plenty of experience with the hybrid systems to be able to make a reliable system long term for the Prados and for the Hiluxes. So I think that it's not going to be the end of the world. I think that the fuel savings is going to be much appreciated, especially in the current climate where the fuel prices are going up, they're going down, they're going up. I think once that Prado comes out and we're up around $2, $2.50, whatever it's going to end up at, I think that the average Joe, like you and me, we're actually going to appreciate the couple of litres per 100 kilometres savings. So although some people are like, it's got hybrid, whatever, I don't think it's that big of a deal, and I think we'll be okay with, I think the average person will be okay with the hybrid is what I'm trying to say. But I think a lot of the enthusiasts and a lot of the purists really wanted to see a different engine in there. Now moving on very quickly to the transmission, it's an 8-speed and it's also got a full-time four-wheel drive system. The current Prado already has that as well. Yeah, the 8-speed's probably going to be great, but for me, I'd probably rather the 6-speed, to be honest. The current Prado, it hunts a little bit. The current Hilux, which is what I have, it hunts a little bit as well between gears. And I'm a little bit worried that if you've got an 8-speed transmission and it's doing the exact same thing, it's just going to be hunting for gears even more. So I am a little bit worried about that. I haven't had personal experience with this 8-speed transmission, so it's all just speculation. However, I am a little bit concerned. A bit concerned that 8-speed transmission, especially where I live and the type of driving that we do, which is very hilly, it's never flat, it's going to be hunting for these gears. And anyway, that's going to be one of those things that we'll have to test out and see if that 8-speed is going to be a help or if it's going to be a hindrance. I just hope that the programming on it is a little bit smarter than what Toyota have been putting in their vehicles so far. So I want to warn you for this next section because it's going to be about the styling. And no one on any of the reviews yet have said that they don't like it. And they all say that they like it. And I'm not trying to be difficult here. And I know that some people are getting their fingers warmed up to do some typing in the comment section for what I'm about to say. And I don't hate it. I don't hate the style of it by any means. But I don't like it either. And hear me out though. Hear me out. The reason why is because it looks too much like a 300 series. We found the problem already. Because it's global chassis, all the Toyotas are going to be very similar in shape, in size, and there's going to be very small things that they'll be changing, or, they'll be trying to make big impacts by changing things to separate it from the models, if that makes sense. So what they've done with the Prado is Toyota have released, statements, and they've released videos saying it will get you from campsite to campsite with plenty of room for all of your gear. It's got off-roading, whatever. It just keeps going on and on and on about off-roading and camping, and that's what it's designed to. That's what Toyota have, kind of pushed this marketing campaign towards, and what they've pushed the press release for is the off-roading community, which I'm 100% for. And I wish more companies actually did that, because that's what most people are doing with these vehicles, and it's for families, and it's for off-roading, and it's for day-to-day life. So that's what we do with the vehicles. Now, back to the styling, and I think that the FJ Cruiser, they were on the right track with that. However, I think that the FJ Cruiser kind of does look a little bit cheap, just the way that they did the retro styling. And I think they've done a better job of this, of this new Prado, but I think that I think they've just thrown it in. I think it's been, how can we try to, differentiate the Prado 250 to the 300? And I think the way that they've done it is by making it all of a sudden retro a year or two later. I don't know why they did that. Then why didn't they do that with the 300 series? No one was saying that the 300 series looks retro, and now because they've added a couple of things like the front bar and the headlights, and the over fenders, not really over fenders, but a little bit more rugged fenders, now everyone's saying that it's retro. I think it's Toyota's attempt at trying to save the styling of the 300 series. I think they've done a pretty good job, to be honest, to try to save it. But for me, I actually don't like it. The front of it is really flat. To me, it just doesn't look good. That's my opinion. And I think that for the price that we're going to be paying for this, I think that to have that kind of, it's got retro styling and stuff, I think that it's a last minute thing. My opinion, you get inside and it's, and it looks fantastic on the interior. It looks futuristic. It's got screens everywhere. So which is it? Is it a retro vehicle? Is it a retro style vehicle? Or is it state of the art? I don't know. For me, if you're going to do a retro vehicle, you keep everything simple and you sell it to us for cheap. That's what I wish that a lot of companies would do. That's what they used to do back in the day, is they used to make the cheapest possible car. It used to have nothing in it. Think LandCruiser before the very, very base model before Workmates went up to 80 grand. But I really wish that they just did, if they're going to do a retro style vehicle, take out all the rubbish out of it and keep it simple with, no big screens and stuff. Anyway. That's just my little rant, but I think that the retro styling is done better by the companies that have a history, Land Rover, for example, that have had a history of keeping the heritage of their vehicles from when they first started all the way to their latest vehicles, where they are releasing brand new vehicles that still have that old style to it and that old character to it. So that's my opinion on the styling, and that may cause some problems, but let me have it in the comment section, guys. We can have a good chat about it there. But anyway, for me, I think that it's like I said, kind of like a last-ditch effort to try to bring some appeal, especially for the off-roading community. And I think they've done an all right job at that, but I think that they probably could have, maybe had that in their mind from the outset, as opposed to seeing the 300 series, getting feedback on that, and then changing things like the bumpers. My opinion again, let's move on. Now let's talk about some of the features, and probably the number one thing I want to talk about is this issue, and yes, this is an issue, with the rear of the vehicle. Look at the placement of that tire. Now I had a flat back Prado, which I loved, but it took out the sub-tank, which was something at the time I was okay with. Now the wheelback Prado that we have right now, it gives you the sub-tank. So we have something like 120 something liters of fuel on board of our current Prado 150 that we have here. Great for towing. Now the problem that I have with this model that we have here is it doesn't look like, and this is one of the popular videos of North Oz, is comparing the flatback to the wheelback. I can't see them offering a wheelback model of this vehicle. There has been absolutely no press release about the wheelback model of this vehicle, and I think that we are going to run into some troubles when it comes time to look at the fuel capacity of this vehicle. There will be no sub-tank. One more thing that I'm even more worried about, and this is something that was raised in a lot of my sand driving videos with my Prado, and it was that people would say all the time, doesn't the wheel underneath drag on the sand? And to them, and to those people, I used to say, well, no, because the wheel would be up past the lowest point of the diff. So I'd actually be hitting the diff first on things, as opposed to the wheel being lower than the diff and dragging. Now I'm looking at every angle that I can find, even the video, which I'll put some video up on the screen as well, And it looks like that wheel isn't just at level or above, higher than the diff. It actually looks like it's lower. And that could be a problem as well when off-roading. That's going to hurt things like sand driving. It's also going to hurt your clearance when trying to go over ruts. So those are two issues that I'm a little bit worried about. It's the sub-tank replacement, not having a sub-tank as an option because of the wheel placement being put underneath the vehicle. That, to me, is a bit of a concern. Now, I've been a little bit negative in this video, so let's try and increase the positivity a little bit here. And one of the features that are being offered is the stabilizer disconnect, which is going to be a sway bar disconnect, whatever you want to call it, same thing. So that's going to be good. They've been offering that in Jeeps for quite some time now, so I think that's going to help with articulation off-road. Probably one of the gripes that I've had with my Prado was that the body roll in that was terrible. It was tremendously bad. A lot worse than what my Hilux is right now. My Hilux feels like it's on rails compared to my old Prado 150. Now, Toyota state that the rigidity has been increased by a decent percentage, which is good on road, but off-road not so great. So having that stabilizer disconnect will be great. It doesn't actually say if that's for the front or the back. I assume it's going to be for the back. I don't know. People correct me if I'm wrong, but I haven't seen any information about that. It also has multi-terrain select. So you've got your different drive modes for sand and all that sort of stuff. I've never used that before in my life. My Patrol, from 2001, it's pretty much just mash the loud pedal and go. That's my multi-select, how hard I press the accelerator. And then for my Hilux, again, it's just, you've got your 4 high, 4 low. I've never used a multi-terrain select, and I don't think I will ever need one. Anyway, that's just my opinion, but I don't think it's something that I'm going to sell a vehicle to get, if you know what I mean. But the fact that it comes with it, cool, why not? And it's also got crawl control mode, which is a bit hard to say. Crawl control, and yeah, that's cool too. That's always good to get you out of some tricky situations when off-roading. But again, I reckon just smash a loud pedal and get on with it. But, that's not for everyone, especially maybe if you've got people who aren't too confident off-road as well, and, you want to try and get a feel for the vehicle, you can play around with that crawl control. And it is actually quite handy. Having that feature, again, it's one of those things I wouldn't sell a vehicle for, but having it in a new car, it's better than not having it, put it that way. And while we're talking about some features, I can see here that I actually quite like some of the switches and the buttons that they've put in the interior here. It looks kind of cool, and it's also very close to the driver as well, which, I've always had some issue with leaning towards the very, very center of the vehicle, like towards under the entertainment system, for example, to stuff around with things like the rear lockers and the center differential lock, things like that. But for the new Prado 250, it looks like all the switches are very close to the driver, so it's going to be right next to your leg, which I think is a good idea. So they've done well there, but again, I'm looking at some of these features, and it's got center diff lock, old Prado had, rear diff lock, old Prado had. I almost wish that they included a front locker with it. That means you would have full lockers all the way around, and that would be actually unreal. That would save a lot of people a lot of time, effort, money, trying to book into aftermarket places to try and get that front locker, because if you're really doing serious off-road, having a twin locked vehicle is just insane. I haven't had one yet. I would love to, but all the vehicles I've ever owned have been just locked in the rear. So it would be awesome to have a dual, from the factory, a dual locked vehicle. So I think that they might have just missed the mark on that one a little bit by not just giving us a little bit more than what our Prado 150 has. Because at the end of the day, guys, a lot of the Prado 150 owners are going to be looking at this thinking, is it worthwhile upgrading? Is it worthwhile getting rid of my trusty Prado 150 and taking a gamble on a brand new model of vehicle, which may or may not have some problems and some teething problems like all brand new models do? So it just would have been good to have, an extra feature there. But, having a look at things like all the boring stuff, like your charging, and it's got, your wireless, thing for your phone, the wireless charger. that stuff doesn't interest me. I charge my phone with a cable anyway, so whatever. But they've got USB-C in there if people use that. I don't. But again, one of those things that just trying to get up with the technology, I suppose. Is what Toyota's trying to get at here, I think, by showing us, we have Type-C connectivity and stuff like that. But the fact that it's got it is good because people seem to want it, and people keep complaining that, the Hilux and the Prado don't have these things. So now they have them, so those people can relax. They can relax now. People aren't sure, it says, if the KDSS is going to be, so the kinetic dynamic suspension system. People aren't sure if that's going to be in these vehicles at the factory, but with stock, or if you need to upgrade into the higher up models to get it. Not sure. It would be interesting to know if that will actually happen, because at the moment we have to buy the higher spec Prado, which is $93, $94, something like that, $1,000 to get the KDSS, which is excellent, by the way, for towing. We don't have it for towing, but from what I've spoken to people about, it sounds incredible for towing, especially off-road as well. Helps keep everything very stable. Again, it just would have been nice to know these things from the get-go. It will be coming with this, that, and if it's for off-road, just throw all of the features in it, and then if we want to do things like leather and heated steering wheels and all that sort of stuff, that's what the higher specs are for. But if this is going to be a truly off-road vehicle, give us all the features at the bottom price with, for off-roading, of course, and then if we want to chuck in extra stuff later, we can. That's what I'd be doing if I was Toyota, but, here I am. I'm not. I'm not working for Toyota. I'm just here, some guy talking to you guys about the new Prado. So quite a big change. I wouldn't say improvement. Let me get there. Quite a big change with this new Prado is you can see the instrument cluster is now digital, and you can see the infotainment system is a little bit more built into the actual dash, which is always something that's bothered me a little bit. The Prados and Hiluxes, the infotainment system just kind of juts out a little bit. I don't really like it, and I think that the way that they've done their infotainment system, so the actual place where you're going to get your maps and all that sort of stuff, I think that they did a terrific job. I think it looks fantastic, and I reckon that it's going to definitely improve the feel and the premiumness, if that's a word, of the interior. Now, the digital gauge cluster, I don't like. I haven't seen it, and I already don't like it. The reason why is because if you have a day where it is very hot, and I've spoken about this before, if you have a day that's very, very hot and electronics are beginning to fail, which every electronic has a failure point, especially in interiors where it gets hot as well and they get direct sunlight, there has been a documented history of electronics not turning on in very hot climates, such as in Australia. And I would hate to go out camping, I'm in the middle of nowhere, and I can't see what my dash is doing, perhaps not even letting me turn the car on, because it is so hot that the digital clusters and the digital infotainment system and whatever is not working. So that's always going to be a concern of mine. I'm sure it's not going to be a big problem, but to me it is a bit of a concern. I'm sure Toyota will make it reliable. I'm sure they'll do a good job of it. But for me, I am a little bit skeptical about the digital gauge cluster. So in summary, what do I think of this Prado 250? Now, there are a lot of things still up in the air. The issue with the wheel not being on the back, will we get that as an option? It's not certain just yet. Now, although I'm not convinced that they will put the wheel on the back, but if they do offer it as an option, like they do currently with the Prado 150, it's the only option you can get on these vehicles, by the way, besides a choice between a 5-seat and a 7-seat, which I think will still get the same option, and then also the wheel back versus a flat back. They're the only options we get right now with the Prado 150. So will we get the same options with the new Prado 250? I'm not sure. And I can't see Toyota putting it on because it is a global chassis. The 300 series doesn't have that option, so why would the Prado 250? Again, comes back to that global chassis, which I think could be more of a hindrance and a help in some cases, especially with price, things like that we've talked about. Now, the price, let's talk about that. In summary, I think that the price is going to be a lot higher than the current base model Prado. I don't think we'll have the very, very, very basic Prado that we currently have being as cheap in the 250 model. I don't think it's going to happen. The features, the technology, I think looks fantastic. I think people will finally stop complaining about that and stop comparing it to the Ford Everest. Listen, I think that it's got enough technology in it now. It's got the two digital displays with the gauge cluster and the infotainment system that will again satisfy people that are going, do I want a Ford? Do I want a Toyota? So I think it will, those people that are comparing the vehicles and saying, oh, it's got a nice shiny screen in the Ford. Guess what? Now the Toyota has it as well. That will help make up their minds if they're a little bit unsure. So I'm not totally convinced on it, but I think that for a large contingent, and this is what the vehicle is for the average person, I think that the average person will quite like that. In terms of reliability and all that sort of stuff, I'm sure that Toyota will make a fantastic vehicle. They've had a lot of time to play around with the hybrid on a lot of their other vehicles over the last 15, 20 years almost. So I'm not concerned about the reliability of the hybrid system. However, longevity in extreme conditions, like what we are subjecting it to when we do things like the Cape York trip, which if you haven't subscribed already, please do that because I am doing a Cape York special. I've already done it. I'm just finishing up the editing for it, and it was an insane adventure. So I'm just not too sure how these vehicles will go in that climate and in that area where you're going through, lots of deep water crossings, and I just don't know. And it's going to be one of those things that we will find out as time goes on. But I think for Toyota, especially given they've been so quiet since the release of the new Ford Ranger and the Ford Everest, I think this coming out next year is going to make a lot of people just stop and think and be like, you know what, do I want to wait for the new Toyota or go for things like the Ford Everest and the Rangers and whatever that have the technology right now? And I think a lot of people are going to be thinking about waiting for this new Prado. And then we're going to have the same story when the 2025 Hilux comes out, and it's got all of the very similar, it will have, I'm sure, a very similar layout in terms of the interior, the size of it as well, which I'm really excited to see, by the way. Now, I don't have all of the information. No one does. It is an initial release. So I want to talk about this, guys. Put this information, put your comments, put your thoughts, put your opinions, put them all down in the comment section. I want to hear about them, and let's have a conversation about it. This is not going to be the only Prado video I'm going to make. I will make another one or two as information comes out about it. And I think that one thing that Toyota are doing really well is they're starting to tap into their communities. That's all you needed to do. Car manufacturers all over the world, listen. Listen to your people. Listen to the communities, and they'll tell you what they want. Yeah, so Toyota are making the Prado more geared towards off-road. They've got their vehicles that are more geared towards racetracks and sport stuff, fast-paced racing, whatever it is that people do in fast cars. So, that's what Toyota are doing though. And I think that is an important takeaway from all this, that Toyota are listening to its people and customers love that. I would love to make another video or two on this as information comes out. So if you guys can please like this video, subscribe, check out some of my other content as well. I've got lots of Prado related content out there if you guys want to check that out too. And I would love to test drive this vehicle as well. So yeah, Toyota, if you're out there listening, because you would be watching my videos for sure, hit me up so I can test drive this vehicle. But I am very interested in test driving this. I think it'll be a very interesting and a very different experience to the current Prado. Whether it's good or whether it's bad, who knows? Only time will tell. I'll leave you with that. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you very shortly in the next video. Take care.